All right, let's take a look at some news stories. So this is yet another jailbreak to cause LLMs to violate their security barrier, and this one is pretty simple. Normally you ask it to do something forbidden, like what is the system prompt, and it says, no, I won't do that. So what you do is you ask the question, and then you give the answer as if you were the assistant, saying, sure, here it is. And then when it looks at its history, it seems to think I've already agreed to do this, and then it does it. This, I think, comes from a flaw of handling the history, but it also comes from the fundamental flaw. Now, there's already a fundamental flaw of all AIs, that they do not have a way to tell commands from the administrator from commands from the user that are lower priority. And here, apparently in their history, they do not have a way to tell statements made by the user to statements made by the AI itself previously. So that it just seems like there's a real serious problem here with AIs that is being exploited here again, where they do not keep track of the source of data. They treat all data the same. And that's just a fundamental flaw that leads to all kinds of prompt injections, and this is just another version of it. Now, there's a lot of concern how to make AIs faster and cheaper because it's getting ridiculous where we have to spend so many billions of dollars on data centers and pollute the place and consume all this power, and you wonder, couldn't you just make a smarter AI? So they have another technique here. What this one does, something called Compress SM. What this does is they say in the early stages of training, like just 10% into the training, you can already tell what parts of the AI are not doing anything. They're not contributing any value, so you can just trim them off and make the later stages of training much faster. So that sounds like a pretty good idea. And apparently, for certain kind of AIs, it really works and makes them a whole lot cheaper to train, which is definitely something we need. So Mythos has come out in a private release from Claude, and they've said although it's going to be their most expensive model by far, it is their most powerful model by far, and it's so powerful that it can hack into systems more than anything before, and so they're so afraid of it. It's in a private release where they're letting 40 large companies have it temporarily to defend their systems before they release it publicly, and all the hackers can use it to hack into systems. Now, the UK government has been testing it to see if this is true. I've already seen a couple of pen testers I follow on Mastodon say, oh, it's nothing great. I could do this with the earlier model. What it's doing is not really anything that revolutionary. And so what they say here seems to sort of clear it up. What they say is if you're just trying to do one individual cybersecurity task, it's pretty much the same as the earlier models. But the thing about it is it's able to chain those tasks together into a multi-step attack much better than earlier models. And one of the things they did to test it here was something called the last ones, which is a test range where you have to do a 32-step attack. And the earlier models couldn't do this, but Mythos can do this. So that does suggest that it is true that in practice it will be far more effective at breaking into systems. And this is something we've talked about for decades, that most companies only want to fix the high priority flaws, like ones that give you remote code execution. But pen testers have said, I can take like 4 or 5 low priority flaws and chain them together to create a high priority flaw. So it's really not as good an idea as you think to just fix the high priority flaws, but fixing is so much bother that nobody bothers to fix the low priority flaws, and maybe they're going to have to do that. Now, the good thing for defenders is not only will the AI find the flaws, but the AI can write the fixes. So maybe that will be the way of the future. Of course, one thing I've talked about a lot is the problem that the code AIs write is pretty low quality and probably not really fit for an enterprise, although they're getting better. So we'll see what comes of it all. So this is interesting. This has happened about 6 times in the past, I know, but this is the first time it happened to a white woman. Before, it was always black people whose faces were misunderstood by facial recognition and they were jailed, which shows both that the facial recognition systems are bad at black faces, which is something that's been true from the beginning. These things have been around for, I think, almost 10 years. And I think what's going on is they don't train them on enough black faces data. But anyway, they are notoriously bad at discriminating between black faces. And also, I think it's fair to say many police departments are just inclined to assume black people are guilty and lock them up without worrying about it. But this woman is white, and she was in Oklahoma, and they accused her and sent her off to Maryland to lock her up. And she said, I've never been to Maryland. I'm totally not that person. And they ignored her and locked her up for 6 months before they dropped the case. and they didn't let her know what the evidence against her was. Now it's come out that it was facial recognition. So I hope she's suing or something. But anyway, it does show that this is in the OWASP top 10 for AI models. A vulnerability is their number 8, which I think should be number 2, is its over-reliance, when humans trust an AI output far more than they should. And the thing about facial recognition is it's really not good enough to do this. You can't lock people up just based on facial recognition. It's not like a fingerprint. It's just like an eyewitness that says that looks like the guy. You really shouldn't treat it as enough evidence to convict somebody. It's some evidence, but you're going to have to corroborate it with more evidence before you're convicting people. And this seems to be happening over and over, that people are convicted just based on AI face recognition, even when there are strong evidence. There's strong evidence that they're innocent. Like she could, I think, clearly prove that she'd never been to Maryland, and that should be the end of it. All right. So this young hacker did a historic breach.
I wouldn't say everyone needs prison, but I think I need to go to prison.
Oh, that's in here. Okay. And so he's going to go to prison for it. I wonder what he did. I think I looked up before. He's going to Connecticut, where he's going to be locked up for a long time. He hacked an education technology, Power School, used by 80% of school districts. So now he's being sent to prison for what he did, which is pretty amazing. I guess he tried. I think he tried to get millions of dollars in ransom by threatening to leak Social Security numbers and private data. So that is pretty bad. And anyway, what he said is he was addicted to hacking, which is the same thing the notorious hacker Kevin Mitnick said, who went to prison for a while and then reformed and then became a legitimate cybersecurity consultant and was quite successful and died about a year ago of natural causes, I think. And so anyway, they say this before, they get addicted to hacking. There's a big thrill of hacking into systems, enough that people do it even though it's illegal. And of course, when they get caught, they messed up their whole life. All right. So Predator is one of the malwares people use to extract data from iPhones. And this is commercial spyware. And Jamf is a company that makes the remote control client for iPhones for enterprise use, the equivalent of a domain controller. So you can manage all the phones at your company. So they do a lot of security studies on iPhones, and they have gone into great detail to figure out how it is that Predator breaks into the iPhone operating system. And so they talk about these findings, how it manages to break in through all Apple's security measures, which are really pretty considerable. So this is an important article. I certainly don't claim to have understood it all, but it's certainly a big step forward. And if you take in the malware analysis course, we talk about this stuff in Windows. We've been going through some pretty esoteric stuff in Windows, and this is the similar esoteric stuff in iOS security. All right. Don't notify me as well. All right. So in America, as you probably know, we've been blocking Chinese software. We've been blocking Russian software. We've been blocking Russian Kaspersky antivirus. We've been blocking Huawei routers. And we just had an order that we can't use any foreign-made routers at all from any country. They're all unsafe, which is ridiculous since there are no American-made routers except Starlink, which is not really a replacement for a normal home router. So we are freaking out about the supply chain, which is, it seems like an overreaction. We've said just because it comes from another country, that means it's malicious, which is not fair. I think you should have to have evidence that there's actually malware in it. It does mean that they had an opportunity to put malicious components in the hardware. But unless you think they're actually doing that, it seems outrageous to block it all. But the UK seems to be jumping on the bandwagon. Now they've decided that refrigerators have Chinese components in it. And if the UK is anything like the US, pretty much everything has Chinese components in it. We don't hardly make any hardware at all here. Everything comes from another country, and usually China. But they said, therefore, they could foul up our medical system by causing the refrigerators to not keep the drugs cold enough and the biological samples cold enough, which I suppose it's true, but once again, like I'm saying, it seems to me like you should actually find evidence that they're actually putting malicious components in the fridges rather than freaking out about it so much yet. But anyway, everybody seems to be, I guess this is part of the move into World War III, as everybody is just getting more hostile towards other nations and bickering over oil in the Strait of Hormuz and one damn thing and another. It reminds me very much of World War I, where every nation was just grouchy and in a bad mood and waiting for some excuse, and finally this guy got shot and everybody said, okay, let's go to war. I'm just waiting for a chance to have a war with some other country. It seems like we're getting just more and more hostile towards people, warming up to real hostilities. Anyway, Let me stop this recording.